Hello everyone, and welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Douglas Johnson. I am a yoga teacher at the advanced 500-hour level. I'm an ordained minister, musician, and kirtan artist. Today I wanted to talk about beliefs. Before I get into the talk, however, I want to thank my patrons on Patreon. They are the community who help support the creationist content so that I can share it without a paywall. They make a donation monthly, and that helps me take the time, energy, and resources to create these talks. So if you would like to support the creationist content, join that community. Check out the links below. You can also help out by buying merch in the shop and liking, subscribing, sharing, and commenting on YouTube. Okay, beliefs. So this is very interesting. I read a few books recently where they're talking about how beliefs have effects on us. And this is something I've been aware of for a while, but it's come up more recently. So I wanted to explore it in a talk with you here today. Beliefs for human beings are interesting things because it's sort of like software that we run. And there's all kinds of questions that I don't necessarily know the answer to at this point. How do we come to believe what we believe? Can we just change what we believe, right? Can we choose a new belief? What if someone asked me to believe something and it would be to my advantage, but I find I can't believe that? Interesting. But today I didn't want to talk about these things because, again, these are things I don't necessarily have the answer to. But what I've observed is that beliefs definitely seem to have an outcome, and this is irrespective of whether the belief is actually true or not. So again, this has shown up in a couple of books that I've been reading. And one of them was by a pronatalist. A pronatalist is someone who believes that, we should have children, that we should try and have policies or attitudes or whatever that actually lead to people having children. Because population collapse is a very serious thing for societies. And it looks like population collapse is here for most of the modern industrialized world. It looks like our populations are collapsing or are going to collapse within the next few generations. Regardless of that, it was interesting because this book was exploring how different attitudes, different beliefs led to different outcomes, like people having children versus not having children. In another book I read, they were talking about how in many traditional cultures, you might have a belief that factually is not true, but practically led to positive outcomes for the people who believed it. And again, this is interesting because, again, factually, there may be no evidence for it, but in reality, the belief might actually lead to a positive outcome for those who hold it. And I'll give you an example that I've given many times before, but it's a very powerful example, and it comes from the Buddhist tradition. So I read an article a long time ago where they were talking about Buddhist monks under, I believe it was Mao in China, who was a communist who really didn't believe in organized religion of any kind or spirituality. They wanted a secular state. When Mao annexed Tibet and claimed that Tibet was actually a part of China, he took the monks from the monasteries and put them into concentration camps that were full of dissidents, people who he disagreed with politically. So these were very traumatizing places to be. And when, I guess, power switched hands or Mao changed his mind about the way he wanted to run things, people were let out of these concentration camps. And what they found was almost everyone who went to the concentration camp when they were let out, they had post-traumatic stress disorder, except for the monks. So this was a very curious and interesting thing. Why would a Buddhist monk emerge from a concentration camp without post-traumatic stress disorder? Because it's a serious thing, isn't it? Well, when they talked to the monks, what they found was they believed in karma and reincarnation. And so the combination of these beliefs led them to see their time in the concentration camp as basically dealing with past karma, maybe not from this lifetime, but perhaps from another lifetime. And so they saw it as something that simply needed to be endured, like a balance needed to be created. And so they didn't sit there as other people might have in the same situation. Others might have been saying things like, this isn't fair, to themselves. I don't deserve this. This isn't right. How could this happen to me? I'm a victim. I don't know exactly what people were thinking, but these are things I might imagine that they would think. Whereas the Buddhists were saying, okay, this is my karma. So in a sense, I brought this on myself. I must just endure it. And Buddhists also have an idea about impermanence. This wasn't in the article, but I imagine this was playing into it, where Buddhists say that everything passes, nothing is permanent. So they might have also been thinking, okay, this is not pleasant, but this too shall pass. What's interesting about the belief that they had, or a combination of beliefs, is it allowed them to emerge psychologically intact from what is otherwise a traumatizing experience. That is a perfect example of a belief that may or may not be true. I don't really have an opinion about it. I know as a yoga teacher, as someone who has practiced and studied Buddhism, that these traditions talk about reincarnation, karma, and does that mean that I know that them to be true? No, I don't know them to be true. But again, the question might come up, does it really matter? If this teaching is so powerful that someone can go into a concentration camp and emerge psychologically intact, maybe this is a belief worth having. In A Course in Miracles, at the end, they actually talk a little bit. They have a kind of a question and answer section. And it certainly seems like the Course, which is based on Christian teachings, believes or talks about lives, right? So again, reincarnation. And I think one of the questions is belief in reincarnation required or necessary or good for studying the Course? And the answer I really like, because it says basically belief in reincarnation is like any other belief. If it causes one to see things in the right way and to approach the text in the right way, then it's a help. If it makes one sort of lazy or makes one think, well, I can just wait to the next life, then it's harmful. And I like this answer because, again, is a belief good or bad? I think it depends on how we're taking it, what perspective we take on. So this is something, again, I've been pondering about and I wanted to share with you, is what are your beliefs? Can you change them? Are your beliefs actually helping you in any way? So again, many people I've worked with doing inquiry, doing deep inner work, they have deep beliefs of unworthiness, that they are not lovable on a fundamental level. I can't see how this belief is doing you any good. I simply can't. I don't really see how that belief can lead to a good outcome. Believing that we are worthy of love, that we have love, I think this gives us a fundamental ground from which to work. again, and it really doesn't matter whether it's true or not, right? Is there evidence for that or not? You know, it almost doesn't matter. So that's what's so interesting about belief, how it affects our lives, how it affects outcomes, how it affects others. And there's no question, a belief, whether true or false, will affect the outcomes. So it's worth examining, what do I believe, and what do those beliefs, what are the outcomes of those beliefs? What do they cause me to do, right? And is that what I want for my life? And this is something, again, that you can just take time in contemplation to look at. Like most things in spirituality, and like in the last talk, I talked about time for healing and taking care of your health. This too will require time, require you to slow down, to pause, to introspect, to ask. But I think beliefs are one of the most powerful tools that we have at our disposal, and something that potentially we can change without needing to change anything else. So for instance, I can't necessarily change my bank account right now. I can't add extra zeros to my bank account. I can't create more than 24 hours in a day. I can't necessarily control how others are going to behave. But potentially, I can change what I believe. So, worth exploring. All right, everyone, as always, I hope you found today's talk helpful and useful. If you have, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, comment, and share if you're on YouTube. And again, if you'd like to go a little further, check out the store, the shop, buy some merch, become a patron, leave a tip. All of these things are a huge help. All right, till next time, namaste. Have a beautiful day.